So this is right angle trigonometry, and it's actually not that bad. And all it really means is how are the sides of a right angle triangle related to the angles um, of the right angle triangle. And here's what you need to know. The hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle, which is here. And the hypotenuse is also always the longest side. I also want you to remember that for right angle triangles, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the Pythagorean theorem is always true, assuming that c is the hypotenuse. And so those are just a few things to remember. So it works like this. The cool thing is, if you had a circle, and I do actually really want to get into this, but if you had a circle and you drew in some triangles, as this angle increases, the way that angle will increase is if the side increases. But as that side increases, you can see that this side, the base, will get smaller. And as it increases more, or as it decreases, that's fine. But then the altitude gets smaller, but the base will get longer. And if I ever meet you in person, you really want to know about this, please let me know, because it's a wonderful explanation. But I'm just doing the basics here. So it works like this. Sine, cosine, and tangent. The relationship is the sine of the angle is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the cosine of the angle, is the adjacent side next to over the hypotenuse. And the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. And so for sine of theta, I'm going to erase, sine of theta, well, here's my angle. And I need to find out which side is opposite the angle. Well, here's my angle. So that side is opposite the angle, so it's 3, and my hypotenuse is 5. For the cosine, which side is adjacent to the angle? Well, adjacent means next to. And so that's going to be 4, and my hypotenuse is 5. And some people say, well, how do you know that this is not the side we're talking about? Well, the reason why is because 5 is always our in this particular triangle, our hypotenuse is always going to be opposite the right angle. So only one other side is adjacent. They're both adjacent, but the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse. And so the 5 takes the cake as the hypotenuse, and so therefore the other adjacent side is the one that we're speaking of. And tangent is opposite the angle, so opposite theta, which is 3, and the adjacent side is 4. Now, what if we're talking about a different angle? Let's say we're talking about this angle up here. So I'll say the sine of alpha is opposite over hypotenuse, in this case is 4 over 5. The cosine of alpha is the adjacent, which is 3, over the hypotenuse, which is 5. And the tangent of alpha is opposite over adjacent, which is 4/3. And that's it. That's basic right angle trig. And so you just say sine of theta equals 4/5. Now, let's say I knew that the angle, I'm going to do one more. Let's say I know that this is 20 degrees, and I know that this is 4, and I want to know the hypotenuse, and I also want to know the adjacent side. So I might say, alright, well, if I know the opposite side is 4, maybe I'll use the sine function. I'm going to say the sine of 20 degrees is equal to 4 over the hypotenuse, call it h. And if I cross multiply, I get h sine 20 equals 4. I'm going to divide by sine of 20 on both sides. And when I do that, I get 4 divided by the sine of 20. And my answer is, there's something else I wanted to mention. I just got a really ridiculous answer, and the reason why was because my calculator was in radian mode, we're working in degrees right now. So it's 11.695. I'm going to round this to 11.7. We'll say centimeters. So now I know my hypotenuse is 11.7. I'm going to use cosine of 20 to determine my adjacent side. So no, that's not true. I'm not going to use cosine. That'd be silly. I'm going to use tangent of 20. And it's going to be opposite over adjacent, 4 over a. So I get a tan 20 equals 4. I'm going to divide by tangent of 20. And when I do that, 4 divided by the tangent of 20, I get 10.98. 989, so I'm going to get 10.99. So I'll just say 10.99 centimeters. The reason why I did that is because if I had made a mistake with my hypotenuse, I still want to use the 4 to get that one. And here's my last piece of advice. Until you're perfectly fine with this, use the Pythagorean theorem to check your answer and see if you get it. And you'll get very close. Also, take a look. 11.7 is my hypotenuse, and it is greater than my opposite side and my adjacent side. I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to do another video on how to calculate the angle given two sides. What you did right now was you calculated the side given an angle and one side.